Hi, I'm Chris, and this is Vera, my assistant here, and the Varla Eagle 1. This is by far the fastest e-scooter that I've reviewed in the channel. Now, this one really is like the Tesla of e-scooters, and why is that? Well, it has dual motors on it, 1000 watts, so this thing is an absolute monster. Top speed is 40 miles per hour, 65 kilometers per hour, and that really is quite scary, so that's why I've got the full face helm right here, and I've got some extra padding on just in case. But I didn't really want to do those kind of speeds on such tiny little wheels here, but it actually doesn't feel bad at all. Once you get up to the higher speeds, this is a scooter that can really handle it with the dual suspension. The Eagle 1 comes well packaged up. We just need to install the handlebar and then the controls, screw those firmly into place, and we are done. So some very light assembly. It only took me about 10 minutes or so to get myself up and running with this. So they do include a spare inner tube. We have 3 different grip tape styles, so if you don't like the one that it comes with, you can swap it out. And they also include some elbow and knee pads for protection. Most people will just have a helmet, and I do recommend definitely wearing a helmet and some extra protection with such a fast, potent scooter. As expected for a dual motor scooter, that this one is a bit heavy, so it's 35 kilos. And I like the ride height on this, so it's high enough that you can drop down curbs or even go up them without scraping the underside where the battery is. Our front motor here, this is 1000 watts, just like the rear one, and you can see that either side we do have these bright LED lights. For a bit of safety, I do like this. Now the mudguard here, this is probably the cheapest thing out of these scooters, is the mudguards. The plastic used isn't exactly high quality, and this little bit of red here, it doesn't actually do anything. It's just, well, for decoration, and that does feel a little bit cheap. There's also a little bit of that red plastic just on the side here. Now this doesn't seem to have any LEDs in it. It doesn't light up, so it's just again for decoration. 1000 watt rear motor. Again, the front and back suspension. I'll get more onto the ride of this later on, but just to say that the suspension is really well tuned for the weight of this scooter, and at least my weight too on it. I really do like it. It's the best yet that I have tested. Kickstand right here, and this part is metal. Again, that everything is bolted in place there. Build quality is excellent. It's just the mudguard plastics. I think they could have used a slightly better material there. And the deck on this one, nice and wide. I can fit both my feet on here without any problems, and you can use this for your rear foot too if you wanted to do so. And the grip tape here, you can change this. There are another 3 included in the box. The battery is inside here, and it is 18 amp hours. And up the front right side here, we have the charging connector. Now, it will take about 8 hours to fully charge with just the single charger, but you can connect a second. That's why it has the 2 charging ports. And you can halve that charge time to bring it down to 4 hours, which is great considering that this is a large 18 amp hour battery. And for a scooter as fast as this one that can get up to 40 miles per hour, 65 kilometers per hour, it does have very good brakes on it. Now, our tires, they are small, so 10 inches by 3 inches wide. We've got 160 millimeter discs here, a hydraulic brake setup, so this one just has a single pot caliper here, hydraulic of course, and the brakes are very good, and I will test them out later on in this review. The rear is the same setup, so we've got the hydraulic brakes, 160 millimeter disc. Another thing I like about this scooter compared to the other large scooter I have here is the way they've done the handlebar stem. Now it has these 2 quick release latches, but it actually slots down over, so there's this clamp that goes over where the stem is, and it has no play in it, so this is a very secure way of doing it, and as a result it just feels so much safer and more secure than the eMove Cruiser that I have from Voro Motors. So the handlebars, they don't fold in, and this in a way is a good thing because I don't normally fold handlebars in anyway, and it means that the handlebars just feel stronger, more rigid, there's less play and movement in them, giving me, again, more confidence when I ride this scooter. And now our handlebars here. So we've got the hydraulic brakes as mentioned before. They do include a bell for a little bit of safety. I would have preferred the electric buzzer we sometimes get with these scooters and the e-bikes I've been reviewing in the channel, but hey, that's good enough to just advise people to get out of the way or whatever. So we've got a switch here. That in is on the eco mode, out is the turbo, and we've got the single and dual switch then. So you can either have the 2 wheels driven, that's the 1000 watts times 2, or just the rear, which is good for safety. If you're going to be riding this in the wet, I highly recommend you only use the single mode. Why is that? Because the front wheel can slip, and in the wet, that's a recipe for disaster, you coming off this and hurting yourself. So we do have a key and the spare there for locking this. This is our voltage, a little hard to see in sunlight here. Now the grips they've used, they are lock grips and they are not going anywhere, very sturdy. So the handlebar and then our stem here, everything is bolted into place. Now I did have to tighten all of this up when I first assembled it. That's the only assembly you need to do, is just to put on the handlebar and then tighten everything up. Now this is a little bit cheap. It wiggles around a little. This is for our ignition, you could say, the on and off, and it's good to have this lockable so you can leave the scooter somewhere and no one can power it up. But the build quality of this, the plastics there, are a little on the cheap considering the price of this one. So obviously we have power on, holding it down will power off. Mode goes through the different gears, so this is for our power and speed really, so gear 1, gear 2, gear 3. Holding down mode will then turn on the front and rear LED lights. This is our accelerator. Now this I do find to be a little sensitive. Now there's two ways you can set it up. If you go into the advanced settings of this, you can set it up that you just pull the trigger and it goes, which is great, but it can be a little bit dangerous. Now this has happened to me before on a previous scooter, not this model here though. I accidentally touched it when I was walking along with it, and then the scooter took off and almost pulled my arm out of my shoulder, my collarbone there, and that was very, very sore. So I recommend to have the kick to start is a little bit of a safety option there, which I've currently actually got disabled. Now to go into the advanced settings here, you can hold down those two buttons, and that's when you get into the advanced setting menu, which is the P menu. So you go through P, 0, 1, and all the different ones there to change and adjust things. That's how you can unlock the speed limit, but I won't tell you exactly how to do that. There's plenty of good tutorial videos out there that you can find on Google on that. So if you click this with the power button, just tapping it, you can go through our trip meter. You can see our voltage there, which is currently 54.6 volts, and the odometer here too, which I've currently done 24 kilometers. Now, yes, you can change this into miles per hour too if you wanted to do so. And the shimming, you're seeing this screen just shimmering away. That is only on camera. Unfortunately, all my cameras, shutter rates, and whatever I try, it seems to do that because of the refresh rate of the screen. So I want to talk a little bit about the ride comfort of this one, just going along right now, that it does have plenty of room for my feet, you can see on the deck here. So plenty of room right there. Handlebars are good. Now you cannot adjust the height of them at all, but I don't find it a problem at all. I do want to point out one thing though, that with this particular scooter, the front of it, because it's got the motor on the front, it's a little heavier. The turning circle seems not as good as the others that don't have the motors on the front. And that's because of the cables there, because of the front suspension setup is just a little bit different. And I do notice that, like if I want to go around here, they do this at lower speeds, it's a little bit cumbersome, and the accelerator is a little twitchy. You get used to it. I managed to do that okay, but it's just not quite as smooth as the other scooters that I've reviewed here in the channel. But the acceleration on this, even though I am in the eco mode, speed limited, it's still so quick. I mean, it spins the front wheel a little bit on smooth surfaces, so you do need to be careful with that, because if you're really in somewhere that's got a lot of loose gravel or something, you've got to be careful with that front wheel. That's when you need to push the button there to put it into the single motor mode, and that's when you get the most battery life too, of course. Okay, so I have an empty car park here. Now I'm going to test what this can actually do, the Varla Eagle 1, because they say it can go up to 65 kilometers per hour, 40 miles per hour. So what I've got it on is the dual motor mode, turbo mode, and I have unlocked the speed limit. Now this is the only time during this review that I will be unlocking the speed limit here, just to test it out in this private empty car park. Okay, so let's go. So the front wheel's spinning and I've just hit 20, 25, 30 kilometers per hour, 40, 45, 55, about to hit 60, and that's getting too fast for my liking. I have a full face helm on, but that is just crazy, crazy fast for a scooter with 10-inch wheels. Some rough road just up ahead, and let's see how it handles it. But the suspension on this scooter, it just gives me a lot more confidence than the others. It's very, very good. I mean, they've got it perfect, I think, for the weight of the scooter and then my weight, which is about 80 kilos. So this just goes up that climb with absolute ease. It just pulls ahead. And remember, I'm limited here to 25 kilometers per hour. I have not got it in the top settings at the moment. All right, so I've got my little climber here that I use to test out scooters and e-bikes. Now, normally with the e-bikes, of course, about halfway, I need to start pedaling, but not with this. Hopefully I won't have to kick it all, but you know, with this kind of power, I will not have to do that. So this is about 25 to 30 degrees in this climb, and I'm just gonna go dual motors, turbo mode. So 1, 2, 3, accelerate, front wheel slipping, and off we go. This is just rocketing up this for a scooter, unbelievable. So it absolutely aced that climb, but there's no point having all of that speed and power if the brakes are terrible. Now they are really good on this e-scooter. They are the best I've come across. So once I hit this pole here, I'm gonna do some braking. There's a car coming. But very, very good. I ended up locking up the rear a little bit. And the suspension really does help with the braking as well, because you can feel it just aiding. And overall, I think for the 160mm discs, it does apply a lot of pressure to these hydraulics. The hydraulics on the calipers, they're very, very good, and just excellent brakes. The best I've tested yet. And now I'm coming up to the end of the ride, which is the end of the last rotors, and a speed bump. Let's see how it handles. I mean, you can pop the front up if you want to, but really not too much of a problem. Again, the suspension on this just seems to be very, very well balanced. And a very smooth ride. Now just ahead is actually a lot bumpier than it looks. This path is made up of like crazy paving rocks. It's all up and down over the place. So this will be a very good test of our suspension and just how it's going to handle this. The smaller scooters that I test out completely just rock themselves to bits. And this is very bumpy. I won't say it's smooth, and I can hear something rattling. It's the rear mudguard, but this is faring pretty well for very, very rough terrain. And you can see that front suspension, especially, I can see it anyway looking down, working very, very hard. Okay, so what about our range? Burning around town using the dual motor mode and pretty much just 100% throttle the whole time, I was able to get 25 kilometers with 2 bars left. So I should be able to achieve, I would say, at least 30 to 35, which surprised me. That's a little bit better than I was expecting, considering I did go up quite a few hills. Now, if you use the eco mode, they claim up to 65 kilometers is your range. But I see it as being more, at least with my weight of 80 kilos, being more around the 55 kilometer mark there when it comes to the kind of range in the eco mode you're able to get out of this. Now, I love the dual suspension. I think they have just done it right with this, okay? It doesn't bottom out, it doesn't rattle, and you can see when I just jump on it right now that the suspension, it does a really, really good job, and it really gives you a lot more confidence, and it feels so much better than what you would think. Looking at it, you'd think, oh, that would be horrible. You'd feel very insecure. The braking will be poor because of the small wheels. It actually is not really what you think. When you ride this, you feel quite confident with it. You've got great brakes on this. The braking is very, very good. You've got a wide deck on here, of course, too, which houses the large battery. And talking about that battery charge time, so 8 hours is kind of the norm. It can 8 to 9 hours with just the single charger. But it is good that we have the dual charging option with this particular model here. So I can charge it in half the time. And will only take then about 4 hours to fully charge the Eagle One. Now, what other things I don't like about this particular model? I think they went a little bit cheap with the mudguard plastic. I mean, this one here at the rear, if you go over a lot of bumps, you might have heard with some of my road tests there that the rear mudguard was whacking down onto the tire, just making a little bit of a noise there. Otherwise, the suspension doesn't rattle or anything like that, which is good. And then the red plastic they have around the side here, on top of that, it just feels a little cheap. Now, I think they should change that and maybe go something a little bit more high quality for our mudguards at least. And then when we have our key, okay, so you can lock it, you can remove the key, that's great. But it's a little bit cheap, the plastics that they've used for that. The rest of it is pretty good. I mean, we've got the lock grips, brakes are really good as mentioned. And one of the best things I like about this scooter is the suspension design here. Now, when I put the pressure on the brakes, both of them locked up now, and give it a bit of a move back and forth, there is a bit of play and movement in the handlebar, but it's only moving just the metal there. But there's no actual play down where the suspension is, unlike the other e-bikes that I do have. Sorry, not e-bikes, but e-scooters, sorry. it will rattle a bit and it moves around. There's a bit of play, but not with this particular model here. It just feels so much safer and secure. So I really do like the fact that they have the ring around the outside that goes over the handlebar stem. And then we have the 2 quick release locks. So not even one of them, but 2 of them just in case. There is a backup. And that gives me a bit more confidence in this, that it's not going to fail me, because you can imagine with one of these scooters, if that was to break here or something, it would be an absolute disaster, especially at the speeds you can do on this one. And then when it comes to safety with this one, there's a couple of tips here, that if you're going to ride it on loose gravel or on roads where there could be rocky patches of loose dirt or something like that, and in the wet definitely, put it on to the single motor mode. And what that does then is just give the power, the 1000 watts, to the rear hub. As then it becomes then rear wheel drive instead of all-wheel, 2-wheel drive that this has, because the front wheel is prone to slipping. There's a huge amount of torque. Even just under full acceleration, that speed test that I did, the front wheel, because it pulls you back, it's very quick, it will lift up the front wheel just a tiny fraction and cause a little bit of slippage there. And if you're doing that going up hills and things, or if you happen to go up like a sidewalk or something that's quite smooth, the concrete, just be careful, that front wheel could slip. So there's a bit of a danger there, because if that slips out, you'll fall over and it's going to be face first. It won't be pretty if you can get your hands out in time. So that's why I've got the full face helmet. I do recommend, got to wear a helmet, maybe some knee pads, and maybe even elbows and things like that as well should be considered with a potent, scary kind of fast scooter like this one. So the range I think is acceptable for what it is, considering it's dual motor, and it's just crazy fast. It is so quick. The acceleration is something else. And for me, this is like the Tesla of the e-scooters that I have been reviewing. And if you're after a beast like this, this is definitely one to look at compared to what I have already reviewed in the channel so far with the e-scooters. So thank you so much for watching this review here of the Varla Eagle 1. Great scooter, I really do like it. Do check out my other videos of scooters that I have posted in the channel, and I do hope to see you back in the next one. Bye for now.